You guys wanted us to really dig into what happened to the Romanovs, and let me tell you, what we found is way more intense than your average history lesson. Rituals, conspiracies, this goes way beyond a simple execution.
It really does. Most folks just hear about the Romanovs and the Russian Revolution, but the details, especially from this ritual regicide piece by Dmitry Kalyagin, there's something else.
Totally. Like, for those who need a refresher, we're talking the Tsar Nicholas II, his wife Alexandra, their 5 kids, all executed back in 1918 by the Bolsheviks. But here's the thing, Kalyagin doesn't just stop at the who killed them and why. He's all about the where and the when, which is kind of wild.
Kalyagin's argument is that the location, the timing, it was all planned. Like each detail meant something. It wasn't random, like there was a deeper, maybe even ritualistic element to it all.
Okay, so let's get into that location, because this is key to his whole theory. They took the Romanovs to Yekaterinburg, held them there for weeks before, well. But think about it, in the middle of a revolution, wouldn't you want to hide the royals somewhere safe?
Of course. Especially since Yekaterinburg wasn't exactly on the Bolshevik side at the time. Sticking them there, with potential enemies all around, risky move, right?
Huge risk. So why there? What was so special about Yekaterinburg?
Kalyagin, he says it wasn't in spite of the city's past, but because of it. We're talking ancient old stuff. The Chud tribes used to live there, and they were known for, get this, human sacrifice.
Human sacrifice. Wow, okay, we're already off to a dark start.
It gets darker. This guy, Vasily Tatashev, he was big in founding Yekaterinburg, but he was also rumored to be into, well, the occult. And then there's the whole thing about Jewish financial families, powerful ones, having ties to the region. Goes way back, like to the Khazars even.
Hold up, so you're saying this wasn't just some city they picked out of a hat. Choosing Yekaterinburg seems deliberate, like they were tapping into some dark history.
Exactly. Layers of history all crashing together in one place. Even the name, Yekaterinburg. It connects to St. Catherine, who's all about purity. But Kalyagin, he draws a parallel to Hecate.
And Hecate's not exactly known for being a saint, right?
Nope, not at all. Sorcery, crossroads, she's associated with all that.
Yeah.
Torches, keys, like she's got power over hidden stuff, transitions. Dark figure. Especially when you consider that the city's right at the foot of the Ural Mountains, and those have their own legends.
Oh man, the Ural Mountains, tons of folklore about those.
Exactly. Like the whole Mistress of the Copper Mountain thing. Powerful, mysterious, and kind of dangerous, like something's hidden beneath the surface.
It's like they picked the city on purpose, one where these pagan older beliefs were just built in. And the timing, too. That's important. We're talking about the 20th century revolution and all. But the Romanovs got to Yekaterinburg during a very specific moment.
You're right. It was during the Communist May Day celebration, so everything's chaotic.
Yeah.
Right? Big political shift happening. But it also just happened to be Walpurgis Night.
No way, Walpurgis Night. You've got to be kidding me. Talk about clashing vibes, right?
Seriously. and then you've got the Romanovs themselves, devout Orthodox Christians, spending their last days praying, totally unaware of what Kalyagin's saying is brewing beneath the surface.
Okay, so we've got this city, Yekaterinburg, which sounds creepy as heck on purpose. But then there's the house itself, the Ipatiev house. Even the name is messed up.
It really is. Because it only became the Ipatiev house right before the Romanovs got there. Can't be a coincidence, can it?
Especially when you realize the Romanov dynasty, way back when, it started at a place called the Ipatiev Monastery.
Like some kind of messed up full circle, right? And if you think that's wild, the actual history of the Ipatiev house is even crazier.
So this city, Yekaterinburg, it's practically radiating bad vibes. And then we've got the house itself, the Ipatiev house. Like, even the name sends shivers down my spine.
But who are the people who live there? Like, who was this Ipatiev guy?
Okay, buckle up, because this is where things get really weird. Kalyagin really goes deep on Nicholas Ipatiev, the supposed owner of this house, and it's not what you'd expect. He even suggests Ipatiev might have been a front, his name just, there for show, not the real owner.
Whoa, a front. You're saying this guy might not have even been the actual owner? What makes you think that? The whole timeline of him owning the place is fishy. Some stories say he got it in 1908, others say 1918, right before the Romanovs were taken there. Even Ipatiev himself, his stories about living there don't add up. Shady, right?
So he might not have even lived there most of the time before the Romanovs. That's crazy. What about other people? Kalyagin mentioned a Madame Popple, right?
Yes. Eugenie Fedorovna Popple. She was family, Ipatjev's relative and maybe the one actually living there while he was.
Hmm.
Well, that's part of what's suspicious. We don't know what he was up to. But Madame Popple, she's the one who handed the keys to the Bolsheviks.
Talk about being at the wrong place, wrong time. What else do we know about her, though?
Okay, get this. Kalyagin found some interesting potential connections. It seems she was related by marriage to this big Russian Jewish family in the Imperial Theater, the Gelzers. Remember we were talking about Yekaterinburg having those ties to influential Jewish groups.
Yeah, way back, it's like every clue just adds another layer to this thing.
Exactly. But let's go back to Nicholas Iapati for a sec. If he wasn't just some regular homeowner, then who was he?
Right, who was this guy?
He was a military engineer, retired, supposedly not into politics, but his brother, Vladimir Ipatiev, now that's a whole other story.
A brother. Okay, this is where it always gets good. What did Vladimir do?
This guy was a brilliant chemist, key in developing Russia's chemical weapons in World War I. Not someone you'd want to cross, that's for sure.
No kidding. So not just some engineer's brother. This is a guy with serious connections, serious knowledge.
You got it. And here's where it gets really interesting. Vladimir claimed he visited Nicholas at the Ipatiev house, summer of 1917, a year before the Romanovs were even imprisoned there.
Wait, hold on. We don't even know when Nicholas owned the house. How could his brother have been visiting him there a year earlier?
Exactly. Kalyagin's pointing out that this doesn't make sense. When they asked Nicholas later, he said he didn't buy the place till 1918. But records, even Ipatiev's own words from back in 1912, they say different.
Okay, so we've got messed up timelines, a brother who might not even have owned the place, another brother who's like a chemical weapons expert. This is less history, more like a spy movie.
And just like in the movies, more layers to peel back. See, this visit from Vladimir, it wasn't just a quick hello. He claimed he was on his way to check out an explosion dynamite plant, but swung by to see his brother.
A detour. During a wartime investigation of a dynamite plant. That's not convenient, if you ask me.
Right. Doesn't quite track. Especially because this is a leading chemist, busy guy, and he just decides to chill at his brother's for 2 days while his team goes on without him. And in those 2 days, he says he looked around the whole house, including, and this is key, the basement.
It's almost like he was just checking the place out, like on purpose.
It's unsettling, right?
Right.
And it gets even more unsettling when you learn about this dynamite plant, owned by Leslie Urquhart, British tycoon, connections to Wall Street. And get this, a group called the Broadway 120 Consortium. They were heavily involved in funding the Russian Revolution.
Wait, hold on. So now we're talking international money, shadowy groups, and a dynamite plant blowing up. What in the world is going on here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to who wanted the Romanovs gone. Because a lot of the money behind the revolution, it came from outside Russia. Powerful people wanted the Tsar gone for their own reasons.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We've got Vladimir Ipatiev, chemical weapons guy, supposed to be meeting this British tycoon at a dynamite plant. But instead, he spends 2 days at the house where the Romanovs would be killed, a house his own brother might not have even owned until right before.
You got it. And don't forget, it only became the Ipatiev house after the Romanovs were there. Before it was the Popple house, after Madame Popple. Like someone wanted to make sure this specific house and that name Ipatiev got stuck to the Romanovs' fate.
Setting the scene almost like in a play. Except, with murder.
Right. And they were careful about it. Kalyagin even suggests the basement where it all went down might have had a hidden Jewish synagogue in it. Adds a whole other level to the ritual thing.
A synagogue. Hidden in the basement. Is there anything to back that up?
Kalyagin talks about this torn piece of a Yiddish document found in the house way later. It looks like the letterhead from some organization, but most of it's gone. What's left is creepy, though. It says, organ of the Central Committee of the Jewish Communists, the rest is ripped off. Hard not to think about powerful Jewish groups who wanted the Tsar gone.
Right. Like a little clue just left there.
And here's another thing. Pyotr Voikov, this guy was big in the Ural Soviet, helped plan the Romanovs' execution. Turns out, he knew Nicholas Ipatiev. They even hung out at the Ipatiev house.
So the guy whose name is on the house connected to one of the guys who planned the whole execution. And this is heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot. And Kalyagin, he says when you put it all together, the timing, the symbols, who was involved in the Romanovs' deaths, they start to look less like just politics and more like a ritual killing. Planned out, in a place chosen for a reason.
Ritual regicide. That's a huge claim. What makes Kalyagin think it was an actual ritual?
He compares it to ancient killings, like the Aztecs. They used to sacrifice animals, especially dogs, along with their rulers, Ring any bells?
You're kidding. It's like every weird detail connects back to something else.
Exactly. And let's not forget the date they chose, July 17th. That just happened to be the feast day of Grand Duke Andrei Bogolyubsky, who, guess what, was also assassinated. His death was a big deal in Russian history, just like the Romanovs.
It's like Kalyagin saying the Romanovs weren't just killed, they were sacrificed. But why? What were they trying to accomplish?
That's the big question, right? What was the point of all this? If it was a ritual, what were they hoping to gain?
Man, we're talking about something that might go back centuries. Secret groups, powerful people, maybe even whole countries involved? This is crazy.
Kalyagin's making us rethink everything. The Romanovs, the revolution, history itself. And trust me, it gets even wilder when we talk about what happened in those final moments.
I gotta say, my brain's kind of fried. We went from like a history book story about the Romanovs being killed to, well, everything we've talked about. Ancient rituals, conspiracies, powerful people pulling strings. It's a lot.
It really makes you question what you thought you knew.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what's so gripping about Kalyagin's work. He's saying, look closer. What if something way bigger, way weirder was going on?
So let's talk about that night, the execution. Knowing all this crazy stuff, does it change how we see it? Was it just like a political hit, or was it something else entirely?
Kalyagin, he's convinced it was a ritual.
Uh,
And he's got the details to back it up, like the location, the Ipatiev house.
Yeah.
We've been over this, but choosing that place, not random.
Not random at all. It's like dot poetic in a way. Tragic, but the name Ipatiev connecting back to the start of the Romanovs' reign.
And the date, July 17th, feast day of Grand Duke Andrei Bogolyubsky, assassinated, just like the Romanovs. Kalyagin saying these weren't accidents, they meant something. They had a whole other layer to what happened.
And we can't forget about that inscription they found on the wall. Belshazzar Ward in selbiger Nacht von seinen Kämpfen umgebracht. It's like straight out of the Bible, the story of King Belshazzar. Overthrown and murdered. Not exactly subtle messaging.
Nope, not at all. It's almost like they wanted people to make that connection.
Yeah.
Belshazzar's fate, the Romanovs' fate.
Yeah.
They're linked.
And then there's that other inscription, the Yiddish one. Even though it's all torn up, the part that's left, organ of the Central Committee of the Jewish Communists. It makes you think about bigger groups, more powerful people involved in all this.
It definitely adds to the whole conspiracy theory aspect. And when you look at everything else, Nicholas Ipatiev, his past, his brother just happening to visit, Voykov being in on the execution, it's easy to see why some people think there's something darker at play here.
So we're talking about this tangled web, loose threads that when you pull on them, they all connect to something creepy. But what's the point? If this was a ritual, what was the goal?
The million-dollar question, right? Kalyagin, he doesn't give a straight answer. He lays it all out, shows us the connections, but leaves us to decide for ourselves. Some people, they think it was about power, about tapping into something old and dark by killing a royal family, a message that would echo throughout history. Others, they think it's something more sinister, more tied to the occult, like those beliefs Kalyagin says were all over Yekaterinburg.
So what do we make of all this? We went deep down the rabbit hole, found some seriously weird stuff, and now we've got even more questions.
That's the thing about mysteries sometimes. It's not about getting all the answers. It's about sitting with the questions themselves. But this much is clear. The Romanovs' deaths, it wasn't just some political assassination. It was bigger than that, full of symbols, history, and, well, just plain tragedy.
Well said. Listeners, we've given you a lot to think about today. Keep digging, keep wondering, and don't take everything at face value, because history, as we've seen, is rarely as simple as it seems.